Hi, everyone. Welcome to our 12th family meeting of the year. Our agenda for tonight is short but important. We have some end of the year reminders, summer school information, open house dates, and then we're going to talk about next year. So we'll start with end of year reminders. The last day of academic classes, so academic classes, your A, B, C, D, E, F periods, is going to be June 11th. After that, we start testing and we start a couple of other activities, and I'll talk about what those will be shortly. Our last day of school, the official last day of school, is June 25th. Now, 11th hour starts on Monday, so June 7th begins 11th hour. That is the first day of 11th hour. So if you've been hearing your kids say, "Oh, I'll get work done, I'll get it done eventually, I'm just waiting till the end is here. This is the last opportunity to get any work in for this school year. And so starting June 14th, it's going to be Regents exams, CTE exams. We have some cell activities that are happening, some fun activities that are happening as well, competition. And we're going to be starting summer school a little early just to get kids situated and set up. So again, if you don't want your summer to be spent in school, get all your work in during 11th hour week. This is just the end of year schedule on a calendar, so you can sort of see it. Again, as I mentioned, 11th hour starts on June 7th and lasts through next week. Some key dates to remember. This is when we have our exams coming up, and we have AP exams happening right now as well. And those are going on this week and next week. And so lots of good vibes to kids taking AP exams. So some summer school reminders. We are running a summer school. Summer school is not optional. If you did not earn credit for any courses this school year, you will be programmed for summer school and you will have summer school classes. Some of the summer school classes are a week long. Some of them are 6 weeks long. Some of them are online. Some of them are in person. Unfortunately, you don't get to choose. It really depends on your individual circumstance. So some students have failed every single marking period and have missed a lot of learning targets. And so they will have to retake the whole course. They will have to sit through a whole class all over again. So their class will probably be 6 or 7 weeks long. Some students have just missed some of the content and some of the learning targets. And so they might only have to take a week of summer school. Again, it's on a case-by-case basis. And the other part of this is it's based on what's available. So some courses might not be available online. They might just be available in person. The summer school is not going to be at UAG. It's going to be at Park West, and it's not taught by UAG teachers. So that's something really important to know. So again, if you're thinking like, oh, I'll just do it in summer, Mr. Lawrence will help me out during the summer, I'll just work with him one-on-one. It's not going to be Mr. Lawrence, and it's not going to be one-on-one. So the time to work with Mr. Lawrence one-on-one is now during 11th hour week. So speaking of closing out this school year and preparing for next before we go on to summer, we got some open houses happening. So as I mentioned, next school year, we are reopening in September in person, and we want to help prepare you for that transition. So we have 4 open houses for each of the grades. Our incoming 9th grade class, so that's the next year's freshmen who got accepted to UAG, class of 2025, the newest UAG class. Their orientation and open house is June 17th at 5 p.m. And then we have our current 9th graders who are going to be 10th graders, class of 2024. Your open house is June 21st at 5 p.m. Our current 10th graders, the rising juniors, class of 2023. Your open house is June 14th at 5 p.m. And then we have our rising seniors, the current 11th graders, class of 2022. Their open house is June 15th at 5 p.m. So why are all of these at 5 p.m.? Because we really want parents to come. Why are these so important? First of all, they are in person. And the reason that they're so important is many students have not been in UAG in over a year. Some students have never been inside UAG. And I know that many might say like, oh, I remember Gateway. You'd be surprised. This week we had students coming in for AP exams. And I had a senior ask me, Miss, where's the bathroom? Like they forgot where the bathroom was. Some of the kids forgot names of teachers. I had one student who got confused with who Mr. Schneider and Mr. Lawrence were. And so it's really important that you come into the building, you see the space, you meet next year's teachers, you get prepared. There is some level of anxiety about returning into the building, especially for students who have not been in the building and who have not participated in in-person learning. Uh, they're nervous about getting on the train and coming to the building. They're nervous about taking the escalator all the way up to 7. And so we want to ease that transition. We want to calm your nerves. We want to calm parents' nerves. I know many parents are in their mind have this picture of Gateway, especially for parents who've never been in the school and are thinking, oh my God, the classrooms are probably so small. How are they ever going to fit in enough kids in a room and social distance next year? How is this ever going to happen? Our classes are actually very, very large. If you can remember, if you've been at Gateway and you can remember Mr. Grushka's room, it's gigantic. 710 is like the equivalent of 3 classrooms. So the space is safe. We want you to see the space. We want you to meet the teachers, and we want you to get prepared for next year. A big part of preparing for next year is also socializing with your peers and meeting some of your classmates whom you haven't spoken to other than like on a chat or on a Zoom in maybe over a year. And so this is the transition time. We want to start you now. We don't want to wait till September for you to transition. The earlier that we start this process, the better you will feel. Speaking of next school year, here's what we know so far. So again, all students and staff are returning to school in person in September. First day of school is in person for everyone. There is no remote option. And I really, really want to stress this. There is no remote option. I think there's a few misconceptions about this. I had parents the other night say to me, oh no, I'm so excited school is in person, but if my child's absent, they can just log on online and watch the class from Zoom, right? No, they cannot. There is no Zoom lesson. There is no live streaming of classes. So if you're not in the building and you're not there for the lesson, you're absent, you're missing instruction. There's no videos that are going to be posted on Google Classroom for you to watch of the lesson. There's no link for you to log into to watch the lesson. The teacher is not sitting in front of a camera. The teacher is not sitting in front of a computer. The teacher is teaching. The teacher is circulating. The teacher is going to be checking your work, and your work is going to probably be written in pen, right? Or pencil, and you'll have like a notebook that you'll use, and you'll write, on actual paper, and you'll take notes, and you'll have worksheets and notebooks and maybe even binders and folders. So again, it is going to be like UAG circa beginning of 2019. You're not going to be logging into Google Classroom to submit all of your work. You will actually hand it into the teacher. You're not going to need to bring your laptop, right? So that's really important to know. We are going back to pre-COVID times, not 100%, but as much as we can. And so I really, really want to stress this, like there is no remote option for next year. If you're thinking that your child's going to come to school once or twice a week, please, I need you to change that mindset. Kids are coming back 5 days a week, and we need to start transitioning now. It's going to be good old UAG instruction, the way you remember it at its best, like interactive lecture, checks for understanding, group work, turn and talks, lots and lots of like engaging discussions, discussions that are like in person and kids are speaking to each other, not via Zoom, via typing, via Padlet, via Google Slides. It'll be actually speaking. So of course, there's going to be some exceptions. Our tech classes are going to continue to use computers. They've always used computers. And we have brand new computers, which we're excited about. Every one of the computer labs has brand new computers. Even the IT labs, they have brand new PCs. Well, we got them for this school year, but of course we couldn't use them because Well, we did use them, but so many kids who haven't been in the building don't even know that IT has brand new computers. Our DDA labs have beautiful brand new 27-inch Macs. So we are ready in our tech classrooms. We're also ready to use tech in classes as needed. Of course, English teachers are on certain days going to say, we're working on a paper. I need you to type that paper. So we're going to need to get on our Chromebooks and type the paper. It's not every day, but every so often as needed, they will use the Chromebooks. You might have your science teacher say, we're going to do an activity today on the iPad and distribute iPads. And so there will still be use of technology, but that's not going to be the standard that you'll be using technology every single day. We're going to collect back the Chromebooks and the iPads that you've been using this year. So we need those back. And we need those back because we're going to be using them in the classroom. So because we're using them in the classroom, we want to make sure we have enough so we can distribute to all the kids as they need. You no longer need them at home to log on because you'll be logging into whatever you need from school. Some other questions that we've gotten about next school year, those questions are about like the vaccinations, the health precautions, all of that. So as of right now, COVID vaccines have not been required for students or staff. This does not mean that they won't be, but I'm just saying right now they have not been. The two questions I'm getting a lot of is like, is every single UAG staff member vaccinated? No, they are not. I know of many that are, but I also know of several that are not. The same applies to students. I know of many students who have already gotten vaccinated, full 2 doses, or are waiting for their second dose. But there's still several students that don't feel comfortable and have not been vaccinated. But I want to be honest with you about that and be upfront about that. Could they say in September that in order to return to school, you have to be fully vaccinated? Of course, it's possible. There's actually precedent for it because right now, regulations say that students who are not fully vaccinated with other vaccines cannot be in school. So you can't even opt out of vaccinations for religious exemptions anymore. So right now, the only exemption for other vaccines, non-COVID related, are medical exemptions. And so this precedent is already there. Could they extend that to the COVID vaccine? Absolutely. And so just something to think about and prepare. Parents have asked, will random COVID testing continue? So as of now, the plan is for the random COVID testing to continue. Currently, it's happening every week we get COVID tested, 20% of our students and staff in the building. And I don't know if that's going to be the same exact frequency next year, but we will find out as we get closer to September. What are the closure policies for next year? If, God forbid, there are positive cases, is it going to be 1? Is it going to be 2? Will it be 3? What will the process be for closures? So that information, the assumption is it's going to be the same as it is currently, but if anything changes, which it might, we will learn about that as we get closer to reopening. What about the safety precautions in place? So the information that we have today is that masks are still going to be required, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, you will have to wear a mask at school. We're going to maintain social distancing, but it'll be 3 feet in the classrooms and 3 feet elsewhere. Students and staff are still going to have to complete the health screening form when they come into the building. That's that form you fill out in the morning. There'll still be hand sanitizer everywhere. The custodial staff will still be disinfecting throughout the day and cleaning the space regularly. Of course, this could change as we get closer to reopening, but this is the plan as of right now. A couple parents asked during this meeting, will kids stay in one room? No, we're transitioning back to our old schedule. For those of you who remember our old schedule, we used to have 8 periods a day. So we would have A, B, C period, then we had F period, then we had lunch, then we had G period, then we had D and E period, and they were rotating, and then we had gold at the end of the day. Very confusing schedule for those of you who are freshmen. If you thought this one was confusing that we have currently, wait till you see our usual schedule. But that is the schedule that we're going to be using. So we're still going to have our rotations. We're still going to have, classes change every so often. you might start in room, 707, and then you might have to go to 643, and then you might have to go to 740. So you're going to be changing classes. You're not going to stay with the same kids all day either. You're going to be switching classes, switching students, switching teachers. So you are going to be circulating through the building. We are going to have gym. Again, we don't know the regulations yet for gym in terms of like social distancing. I assume it'll be more than 3 feet just because it's physical activity. But a lot is going to be transitioning as much back to normal as possible. Exams and graduation requirements next year will also be transitioning back to what they are. It's going to be business as usual. So from what we have heard is there's no more waivers for regents next year. Exams are going to be back. For the current 9th graders, you guys are going to be 10th graders next year. You're going to be taking 4 regents. That's a lot of regents. That's why we're encouraging kids to take the regents this year, so you can practice this year when the stakes are very low, because next year when the stakes are high, you're going to have to take 4 of them and you've never taken one before. SATs will be happening, CTE exams, AP exams. So there's no more waivers. Regents requirements have not been waived, and that's something else that I want to sort of address. A lot of parents and students have asked me like, oh, I no longer need the regents to graduate. You still need the regents. It's just that the regents are now being given waivers, right? So it's not like you don't have to take the algebra regents. You could just possibly get an algebra regents waiver. So it means you still have technically like passed the regents. So in 3 years when you're graduating, it's still a requirement. You still need to have an algebra regents passed. It's just that you got waived from it. And the same thing from last year, you got waived from certain exams. They're still counting towards graduation. And so will students have extensions for NX work? A lot of students were able to complete some work after the course was over and they had an incomplete in the course. As of right now, it's going to be transitioning back to normal. So we're going to be giving grades again. There will be no incompletes. And so it'll be back to our regular grading policy. What about waivers from this year? Like, what if you got a waiver this year in a regents exam, or you got one last year? Well, I need to retake the regents. What if I didn't get the waiver? Will I have to retake the class? So a lot of this is really dependent on the individual student. And so the short answer for majority of students is if you had a waiver granted for a regents exam, that's it, you're good. You don't have to retake that regents. But some students did not get the waiver. So then yes, they would have to take the regents next year, especially for courses that don't have a regents this year, right? So for example, global history, if you don't get the waiver for it this year, you're not exempt from taking it. You might have to take it next year. And the same thing for what happened last year. Now about all the other fun stuff, UAG is all about the events. If you're a junior or a senior, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We have tons of college trips, huge overnight college trip that the juniors go on every single year. We have lots of PSAL sports at our graphics campus. We have our own UAG basketball team. We have tons of clubs, lots of opportunities for internships, lots of traditions, the skate away, the gate away, the Hollagate, the thank cake, the amazing race. We have a lot of trips. We even have international trips. So our hope is all of these things will be back. And I know I keep saying like, it's back to normal next year, it's back to normal next year. The reality is it's not 100% back to normal. We can't be after all this, there's no way to transition back to normal. We're gonna have to still make some tweaks. And so our hope is a lot of these things will be happening next year with some adjustment. So college trips, for example, many universities and colleges have already said that you cannot attend our school unless you're fully vaccinated for incoming students to their colleges. So the same will probably apply for trips. So if they're telling their incoming students that you can't come to this school unless you're vaccinated, I would not be surprised if they say like, you can't come visit this school unless you're vaccinated. And so we're going to have to work with individual colleges and universities that we visit in order to make sure that we can take students to the college. We might not do an overnight trip, but we will definitely be having college trips. PSAL is starting to already transition to 100% operational capacity. They've been practicing the schoolyard, and then they've started practicing now in the gym. So teams are starting to compete. They're having games. They're playing against other schools, so it's definitely very exciting. Clubs will be back in person. Internships are happening right now. Internships are sort of similar to college trips, and it depends on the company. Some of the companies are still fully remote, so of course the internship is going to be fully remote. And some companies are back in person, and so those internships are back in person. Traditions and trips, of course, those are going to take place with some adjustment. We're still not sure about the international trip. Every year we go somewhere. Actually, last year we were supposed to go to China. Obviously, that didn't happen. This year we were supposed to go to Greece. That also didn't happen. And so we're not sure about next year in terms of international travel, but as soon as we're allowed to and everything's approved, we will. So I did speak a little bit about the adjustments and the transition, and I want to name what some of those adjustments and transitions are. We're not going to be able to jump right back in, right? We can't just say like, pretend COVID never happened and we're just going to continue like it's, before the day that school shut down in March 2020. We're going to have to do a culture reset. That's really important. You guys know that if you were here before COVID, you know that whenever I walked around in the halls, it would be like, take your headphones off, take your AirPods out, put your cell phone away. If I saw a cell phone, I would take it. Right now, we haven't been doing that because kids are like, oh no, I have my headphones in because I'm listening to the lesson. Or I'm on my cell phone because I'm answering the questions on the Juno pod. And so we're going to have a culture reset. We're going to have to talk about expectations. We're going to have to talk about procedures. We're going to have to talk about how to, circulate in the halls, how to move through the halls. This year, we've only had about 150 students in the halls. Next year, if we're back to 450 students in the halls, that's a different transition. We want to make sure that it's safe, and we want to make sure that the kids are doing it quickly and responsibly. As I mentioned, detecking students. Like, I want kids talking to each other. I see kids sitting next to each other right now, and they're talking via chat, uh, via text. And I'm like, you guys can just look at each other and talk to each other. And so kids are going to really need that support around socializing and coming back to school and really relearning what school means. We're going to need to support parents as well. Several students have gotten accustomed to, like, I'm waking up at 8:15 and I'm just turning on my computer and logging in. Now you got to get to school by 7:45. You got to take the train. You got to plan for train delays. You got to plan for the walk over. Several students have gotten accustomed to school being over by 1:30 and, eating sort of at the end of the day. Now you have a full day of school. You're getting out of school at 3:05, 3:10. That's very different. We have some students who have started working full time and are working full time during the day, and then sort of trying to do the work at night. And so we want to support all of our students, and we want to support students who are working and help them transition back to school, right? We have lots of opportunities for great paid internships that are not going to interfere with the school day, where the companies are actually working around our schedule to make sure that students are able to participate in school during the day, and then at 3:05 when they're done, they can head to the internship. And so there's going to be some adjustments that we have to make, some relearning that we have to do, and we're going to work together to make sure that the transition is smooth and that our students are ready. There's a lot of anxiety. I know there's anxiety for us as staff members, there's anxiety for our kids, and there's anxiety for our parents, and we really want to make sure that we address it next year. We know it's there. We're not ignoring it. We will be having the conversations. We will be supporting kids through the transition. And that's why it's so important that you come to those open houses now, so we can start that work as early as possible. So thank you guys so much for joining. Again, if you have any questions, please, please, please email me, d@uagateway.org, very easy, or you can shoot an email to Ms. Diaz as well, our parent coordinator, vdiaz@uagateway.org. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I am so excited to see you in a week or two in the building.